Hi everyone, it's Autumn here from it'salwaysautumn.com. Today's screencast is going to be the second in a two-part series teaching you how to create a photo collage using Photoshop elements. If you haven't viewed part 1, you should do that first because it explains the basic technique, which is making a shape and then using a shape as a clipping mask for your photo. So go ahead and view part 1 first. If you've already followed along with part 1, then you're ready for this video. In part 1, we simply put two photos together on a simple photo collage. Today, I'm going to show you how I made this photo collage, which is a little bit more complicated. It has 6 different blocks in it. I've used 5 of them for photos, and I've left one as a plain colored rectangle to make a home for a title. And I do that pretty often when I make photo collages because it's really fun sometimes to add in some title. Anyway, we want to start by opening up a new blank file, whatever size you would like your finished collage to be. I'm going to set mine to 12 by 12 at a resolution of 300, which is always a good resolution to choose. RGB color for the color mode, and white for the background contents. Okay, so here is my blank canvas, and over to the side here I've opened up the photos that I want to use in my photo collage. Now I already have an idea of how I want the photos to be set up because I've actually made this collage already, but don't worry if you aren't quite sure where you want your photos to be, because remember, by using clipping masks we have tons of flexibility and we can change things around at any time we want. So I'm going to start by drawing some rectangles on my blank canvas here that are about the size and shape I think I want my photos to be. You want to make sure that your foreground color here is set to a color you can see, not to white, because that'll be too hard to see. We'll choose the rectangle tool. And up here at the top, we're going to make sure it's unconstrained. That allows us to draw a rectangle of any size or shape that we want. I'm just going to start with kind of a large, close to a square up here in the top. And then right next to it, I'm going to draw a vertical photo. And then here on the end, I'm going to draw a kind of an ultra vertical photo. Then down here, maybe another nice larger vertical. And again, I'm just kind of drawing these and filling in the space to kind of get an idea of how things might work. You don't need to worry too much at this point about whether your margins here are exactly right or not. That'll be something we can clean up at the end. So we'll switch to the Move tool. And now we can start just dropping our photos in and masking them in to see how things look. Again, if you're not really sure where you want things to begin with, just start plopping down rectangles. You can move them around later. Okay, so I'm going to start with this almost square shape up here in the top left. Anytime you want to add a photo into that shape, click on it to activate it over here in your layers palette. Then you can click on the photo you'd like to use and drag it over and drop it in. And what's nice is that the photo comes in again over here in the layers palette right above that shape. So it's very easy. Now all you need to do is hold down the Option or Alt key and click, and that photo is masked in, or it's constrained into that shape. So anywhere we move it, it's going to stay only visible in that shape. Okay, you can shrink things down or enlarge them at this point, but I'm just going to drop all of my photos in first and then make some changes. Okay, the other larger photo in my photo collage, I want to use this photo here. So I clicked on the shape, dropped my picture in right above it, and I'm holding down Alt or Option to clip that photo in. And I know already that I want that to be smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the corner of the bounding box for the photo itself and pull it in to make it a little bit smaller. Click the check marks to commit. Okay, I have two kind of focal point photos where we're more focused on my daughter's face. When I make photo collages, I like to make sure that there's a variety in the collage, and the way I add variety is by having some close-up, some a little further away, some maybe even further away. Let's use this one, dropped in here. And I'll go ahead and shrink that down quite a bit so you can see her whole body in this one. You can see already there's a little bit of variety in how close and how far away we are. And then I like to use also kind of the odd shaped portions that might be left in your photo collage to add in some detailed pictures, just very close up, that are just showing the details. You can see that I'm repeating the same process every time. I click on the rectangle that I want to use to activate it. Then I click over to my photos, pull them over, drop them in, hover on the layers palette over here in between them and hit the Alt or Option key to mask the photo in. So now I have kind of a close-up on her hand, which is pretty cute. And then down here I'm going to do another close-up using my last photo. Actually, you know what? You see this photo here and this photo, these two are so much alike. And I've already placed this one on. But I think I want to use just this detail of her hand and the little Etch-a-Sketch down here. So I'm going to need to move this picture so that it's right above this rectangle. So that's easy to do. Over here in the Layers palette, I'll grab this photo and move it up so it's right above this bottom left rectangle. Okay, watch the photo as I mask this in over here. It disappears. The reason it disappears is because the only part of this photo we're allowed to see is in this shape down here. So we need to grab that photo. Oh, sorry, I grabbed my rectangle instead. Come over to the Layers palette and grab that photo. If you hold down the Command key and then move it, it'll make sure you're moving the photo and not the rectangle. Okay, now I'm going to get this great big so that we have a cute close-up of her hand. She's kind of crooked in here, so I'm going to hover over the corner of this rectangle, and I'm just going to transform that, rotate that a little bit so that it sits more level in my collage. Okay, so now we have this rectangle left, and I'm going to use this other full body picture for that rectangle. Drop that in, hover in between them, press the Alt or Option key to clip that in. Grab the corners of the photo and shrink it up so that it fits and more of the photograph is visible. Okay, so I like how this is looking right now. I have my photos on. This rectangle I'm going to leave a solid color, but I'm going to hit I to get my color selection tool and click on her shirt to get a nice foreground color that will match her shirt. Then I can hit K to get my paint bucket tool and fill that in a nice kind of dusky pink color that will match. All right, back to our move tool. Okay, now that we have all our photos clipped in, it's time to play around with the dimensions and make sure everything looks how we want it to. The first thing I notice is that in this photo down here in the bottom left, I really have a lot of extra room down here that I'm not sure I need. So I'm going to move the photo down, and then I kind of don't like what's left up here. I need my rectangle itself to be smaller. So click on the rectangle, so that you get the bounding boxes for the rectangle itself. And then you can grab a corner or any of these little boxes to move it. That's going to shrink it and make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to click on this rectangle just above it to move it down so it fills in. Okay, this one up here, you can see this rectangle's down a little too far. I'm not getting any white border like I have around the other ones. Now, if I move the picture, that doesn't solve the problem. I need to actually shrink up the rectangle itself. So again, we go back to the layers palette and grab the rectangle so that we have the bounding box for the rectangle itself. We can move that up just a little bit. I'm also going to make this a little bit smaller so that I can make this furthest right rectangle a little bit larger and show a little bit more detail here. Again, to change the size of the rectangles, make sure you choose the rectangle itself in the layers palette. Otherwise, if you simply click down on the photo, you're going to have the photo chosen, and any changes you make will affect the photo itself. Okay, I like how that looks. My last step is to zoom in close so I can even up all of these borders in between my photos. Okay, this is a nice border here. These are a nice size. I'm calling them borders, but they're really margins. But I need to even these photos up. So I'm going to start with this large top left photo. I'm just going to use the arrow keys and nudge it up until I get the sort of margin that I want. Okay, go to the next rectangle, make sure that the rectangle is selected, and use the arrow keys to just nudge that down and just in a little bit closer. Get that third rectangle on that row. Again, use the arrow keys to nudge it down, nudge it in a little bit closer. You'll see that now we have a little extra white space on the very edge, so we'll take that bounding box and pull that over a little bit. Okay, now it looks like it needs to come down just a smidgen more, and that middle one needs to come down just a little bit more too. Okay, those are looking nice and even. Let's make sure these margins are even. This rectangle could stand to move up a little bit and in a little bit. I don't know if you can tell what I'm doing, but again, I'm just using the arrows to nudge that in a little and over a little bit. Now when we shrink it back up, we have nice even white margins in between our photos. We have a good variety in our photo collage, a close-up, a little further away, even further away. Oh look, you can see, now I have one more bit of white showing, so I need to make that rectangle just a little taller. There we go. So a good variety, close up, further away, and some nice detail pictures. This last rectangle, you could certainly throw another photo in, or we could use, I've decided to use the type tool to add in my title. Okay, your more complicated photo collage is now complete. You can go to, actually you would probably want to save it first as a PSD file, and then you could go to Layer, Flatten Image. Then you can save this as a JPEG and upload it to any photo processor and get it printed. Before you do that, make sure you don't have another extra white line at the bottom like I do. So make sure you take your time to make sure all of your edges are cleaned up and your margins are even. Thanks! Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and visit my blog at itsalwaysautumn.com.